Hi everybody! Today I am going to talk about one of my favoriteest of favorite books. So as you know, I'd love to know what you think down in the comments. This book quite literally changed my life. Not kidding. This is the book that made me realize I wanted a favorite book section on my bookshelf. It's called Grooming, Gossip, and the Evolution of Language. For many animals, grooming each other is a primary method of creating and maintaining social bonds. It's quite literally, you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. However, these bonds are limited by practicality. Each animal can only groom one other at a time. The author of this book, Robin Dunbar, posits that conversation developed as a way for us to develop these social bonds with several other people simultaneously. This book taught me several things that I hadn't known previously. I think it was the first that I'd read that discussed the role of the neocortex, or as Dunbar puts it, the thinking part of the brain. And apparently I've been remembering the book wrong. While the book does talk about the difference between overall brain volume relative to body size and the relative size of the neocortex, I know that somewhere in reading about all of this, I've also read that there's also a correlation between brain size and gestational period. And that this is why primate babies, and human babies in particular, are unlike other animals in how dependent they are. It's because they're premature relative to other species. But I guess that's another book. I think it's probably about our development as bipeds, because the resultant change to our hips also affects birth as well. Anyway, Dunbar also goes on to discuss theory of mind. He defines this as, quote, being able to understand what another individual is thinking, to ascribe beliefs, desires, fears, and hopes to somebody else, and to believe that they really do experience these feelings as mental states. That chapter was revolutionary to me because, of course, it's describing exactly what we do when we read. We perceive and interpret the projected thoughts of another, someone who may not even be there, someone who may, in fact, actually be dead. Reading is necromantic telepathy. Or should that be telepathic necromancy? Well, either way, that might be pushing it a bit far, but it's certainly intriguing to think of it in that way. Anyway, having just read Pride and Prejudice, I also have a new respect for Dunbar's analogy about the back and forth of believing each other's beliefs about each other. Quote, this hopelessly convoluted sentence makes the tortuous prose of the typical Victorian novelist seem the very paragon of clarity. In fairness, P&P is Regency rather than Victorian, but the point still applies, nevertheless. Dunbar's upper limit on conversational group size has helped me in the classroom. When I arrange students in working groups, it's in sets of 4, with extras added to make some of them sets of 5. This way, a full group can have a dynamic conversation. In a group that gets larger than that, it's too easy for one or more people to lapse into silence while a discussion flows around them. However, in a smaller group, when even one person doesn't participate, their input is noticeably missed. Yet, these groups are still large enough that if 1 or even 2 people from a group are absent, there's at least a partner available. In contrast, Dunbar's relational group size number has been more of interest than of use. My recent rereading and discussion of Ursula Le Guin's novel The Dispossessed involved speculation about non-hierarchical societies and how they might, or if they even could, function effectively. Dunbar points out that larger groups tend to develop hierarchies as a way to organize their social functions. He goes from there to discuss the way that conversation, specifically gossip, strengthens social bonds and reinforces connections in a manner similar to grooming. However, what struck me was the way that everything he attributed to gossip could also be achieved through fiction, with a few significant differences. First, gossip is almost always negative. Therefore, it creates and enforces group cohesion through exclusion of those being gossiped about. Second, while gossip may strengthen social bonds at the time, it creates a breakdown in trust that weakens those bonds over time. When not actively with the group, members may begin to wonder if they are the ones being talked about by the others. It is for this reason that I disagreed with Dunbar's idea that language developed in order to facilitate gossip. Since then, this came out before the turn of the millennium, back in the 90s. I have occasionally poked around on the databases that I can access. I can use the University of Georgia's system thanks to the school where I teach, and there were several others that I could log into while I was studying for my master's. And I wanted to find out what I could about narrative and social bonding. Something that I have found both encouraging and exciting is that in recent years, I've started to see Dr. Dunbar's name coming up as an author. So it seems like he is also seeing some of this progress in his research. In an interview with Scientific American that's linked down in the description, he says, quote, laughing together, jogging together, dancing together, singing together, telling emotionally wrenching stories, going to see weepy films. These activities buffer the body biochemically and immunologically against the kinds of coughs and colds of everyday life. So it sounds like there are two potential elements: physical activity, such as in jogging and laughing, and creativity, such as in singing and storytelling, that when we engage in them with other people, help us to form and maintain social bonds. Dunbar says that research shows that singing seems to be particularly effective. I would guess that this is because it does have a physical element, but is also creative as well as language-based. One of my most vivid memories is of something I can only describe as rapture. When I was a member of a chorale that performed Gounod's Messe Solennelle. Specifically, it was the crescendo in the Sanctus, starting out as an echoing effect between each vocal part and swelling together at the end of each phrase. Pleni sunt celi, celi et terra, gloria tua. And then going back and layering, starting with the bass with Pleni sunt celi, adding the tenor for celi et terra, then the alto for gloria tua, and then repeating that phrase and adding the soprano section for a gloria tua that pushed forward into not an explosion, but a revelation of sound. Holy, holy, holy Lord. Cyril Stratansky, beaming in front of us as he conducted, leaning back, stretching and growing with the music, the sense of being surrounded by the music, of being within it, and not just that, but of being the music. I will never forget that. And if you know me, you know that saying a lot. The 2004 documentary, A State of Mind, follows two young gymnasts in North Korea as they prepare for the mass games. But, unlike Simone Biles, they do not compete. Not directly, anyway. They give a group performance that combines athleticism and dance. If one person is out of formation, it diminishes the accomplishment of everyone else as well. Yet, at the same time, it is the contribution of each individual that makes the achievement of the group possible at all. At 15 years old, the students I teach are navigating that balance, the pull between individuality and community. It's something we explore both directly and indirectly through the various texts we study and the conversations that we have about them. And I believe that our ongoing quest as people to discover whether or not we can have both, and if so, how it's possible, that happens through our use of language. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. I hope you will leave me a comment, suggestions on ideas, thoughts that you've had, what you'd like me to talk about at some point, or, just say hi. Have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.